Hello, everybody. This is Justin Case of American Newscape, joining our new friend Cliff Gephart. Hello, Cliff. Welcome to American Newscape.
How are you doing today? Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate you having me on here.
Well, we're happy to have you, Cliff, because you've been doing a lot of stuff out there, and even though we're new friends, I'm proud of what you're trying to do. So, Cliff, where have you been and what's happening?
Well, where have I been? Well, I went to the RNC with the South Dakota, see Mount Rushmore. Um, every day I get up and I just try to do my part to raise my family right, to be a husband, and to be the best citizen of the America that I want that I can be. That's kind of how I live my day.
Well, I think those are very noble causes, and I don't think we can ask any more of you. I mean, if you take care of your family, love your family, be proud to be an American, imagine that. Being proud to be an American. Isn't that cool?
It is. It is. I put a post up recently that said, "Do you ever hear them chanting USA, USA, USA at a liberal Democrat event? You just don't hear it, you know." And it's a weird thing when you think about it. You never see like these weird Kamala or the Biden events where they used to put them in like the hula hoops and they would be in the circles. There'd be six people at an event. You never heard those six people yelling USA. It's all just negativity and stuff, you know. I mean, even if you want the country to be what you want it to be, at least be proud of it that you're here. So
No,
yeah,
absolutely. Everybody's owed their opinion, and I don't begrudge them their opinion, but I expect them to respect other people's opinions as well.
absolutely, yes.
So, um, I you were in Nashville for a while. What were you doing there?
Um, I own some property there,
Okay.
and
Okay.
just doing a transition of renters and things like that. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, and you've also people need to check out your channels, Cliff, because you've interviewed some pretty important people as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it's interesting because you say important people, and I think I'm friends with some people that are kind of high up on the food chart of conservative things. But yeah, I think it's as important to interview the person next door to you that is an American. I think that it is just as important to interview like a Roger Stone or a Matt Gates or someone like that. I think we all need to focus on what real Americans want. And so I have all kinds of people on my show. You can catch us on Patriot TV on Saturday nights at I think 10 p.m. 10 p.m. Yeah, I think it's 10 p.m. But my other podcasts and things like that talk to everybody, So because you might find the person that gives an opinion about something that's just a regular ham and egger like me, as much I guess respect as somebody who's a little bit more popular. I guess it's interesting. I didn't expect to say this, but when I was at the RNC, I asked all kinds of politicians. I asked Ted Cruz, Gianna Caldwell, all kinds of different people at the RNC, and you'll start to see some of those videos come out. I asked them a question, and I don't know if you saw this question, but I'll ask you a question
Okay.
and see if you answer. But none of them would answer this question. Not a single one of them would answer the question. Even the guy that wears the brick suit that was at the Trump rally when the shooting happened,
Yeah.
he didn't even have the nerve or the stones or the I don't know the courage to answer his question. But the question was this, and I prefaced it like this: I said, "Look, I was at Trump's first rally, not my first rally. I was at the first rally Trump ever had. I've been on Team Trump since day one. I've hosted the world record Trump vote parade. I think my Trump status is secure, and I think nobody would really question it." Then the question went on to this because I wanted to make sure that they understood that I'm not asking them from a negative standpoint. But had that unfortunate day not turned that bull a little bit by God's finger or divine intervention or Trump looking at a graph, had that not happened, the RNC was 6 days later. In 6 days, the Republicans would have had to find someone else. Had the divine intervention not happened? I'm glad it did. I think we all are glad it did. But if it didn't, who do you think would have come out of the Republican convention as the nominee? Not who you wanted to, who do you think would have. And not one single politician, pundit, or anybody that has any skin in the game or tries to make money on this or grift people would answer that question because I think they didn't have the courage to do it. But it was funny because I would ask regular people that question all the time, and they
Yeah.
all could give me an answer, but not one single person. Ted Cruz, I saw him in a restaurant, and I started asking him, and you could see, like, as soon as I started that, he's like, but nobody would answer that question. So I'll tell you my answer, and then you tell me your answer. I think coming out of that, it would have been Don Jr. Now, will you answer that question?
I will answer it, and I need to confirm that she's still alive, but I would say Jan Brewer.
Who?
Jan Brewer. She was governor of Arizona when she started, when Obama's Homeland Security Department was dumping pregnant illegal aliens out of custody into Phoenix, Arizona in the dead of summer. Arizona was having to deal with it. Now, Jan Brewer, as the governor, went on the air and said, this is not right. You know, the federal government shouldn't be doing this. And Obama flew to Arizona to confront Jan Brewer. And when he got off the plane and confronted her on the tarmac, she started poking him in the chest. So I always loved Jan Brewer all the way back in her history. And she had the courage to do what was right. And she had the courage to stand up to an administration that was out of control, that was the beginning of this crisis that we're all dealing with today.
Yeah.
So,
Now, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. I'm not saying who you wanted to be, but who do you think would have been the likely person that would have come out of
oh,
that convention?
details.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
So that's why I asked that because I not like who would you want to be because everybody can say it would be me, but who do you think would have been the realistic person? And I think based on lineage, how Don Jr. has handled himself over the last 2 years, where he doesn't really run the Trump organization, it's Eric's job. I think it would have been Don Jr. But now, who do you think it would have been? Could have been Vivek. It could have been, um, the crazy Indian lady, that like turned on Trump and then she came back, Nikki Haley, and who knows who it could have been. I think
well,
it would have been Don Jr.
I think if had I listened to the question correctly, I would have said DeSantis, and I agree with you. I think that would have been the best choice.
Yeah, but no, but nobody would answer that question. It was like completely crazy. So, I think when you talk about, who I interviewed from, you know, Gates to, Roger Stone, General. I mean, there's a lot of people I know and I've talked to. I just was on the phone with Katie Hopkins people, and but I think it's just regular people. Regular people can give us a lot of insight to, what America should be doing, what it could do better, and kind of some of the directions. So I think man on the street kind of stuff is important too.
Well, I think it is. You know, what we want for everybody in this country is to sleep better at night. You know,
Sure.
we deserve to sleep better at night, and I would like registered voters to have a horse in the race, and they should be willing to speak about that horse, promote that horse, endorse that horse in a free society.
Yeah. I, so many people are afraid to like wear a MAGA hat. If you watch any of my videos, I'm either wearing a MAGA hat or I'm wearing a MAGA Realtor hat from my company, MAGA Realty. And everybody thinks like, oh, you're going to get beat up, you're going to get assaulted. Well, I'm 6'2", I weigh 210 pounds, so maybe there's that. Maybe that's what the thing that stops it. But we should all be able to discuss in a rational fashion, what we want in America, and maybe through discussion, I may find a point that's important to somebody else that makes sense to me. But I think we should be able to have that. I think I should be able to put a Trump sign in my yard, and you should be able to put a Harris sign in your yard across the street. And I think we should be able to talk about it. And I think through dialogue and discussion, that's where we find common ground, we find solutions, and we might find something that's even better than just a one side of the aisle, mentality. But all the time I tell people, wear a MAGA hat, wear a MAGA hat. Because when I wear a MAGA hat, it's amazing how many thumbs up I get, how many people say nice hat. And it's crazy if people just tell people who they like. I think you'll be okay. And if you need a MAGA hat, go to conservativegrounds.com. So there's my plug for that.
Hey, does that hat come in Democrat blue?
Hold on one second. Is that considered Democrat blue? Is is this Democrat blue?
That's close enough. I'd wear it. I'd wear it.
Okay. So yeah,
Yeah, it's just, and, that's the other fascinating thing we're seeing, Cliff, is we're seeing a lot of segments of society coming out for the first time to support a president that they helped defeat the last time.
I think a lot of it is, um, I think it's a lot of soccer moms, and it's a lot of people with like not a lot of intestinal fortitude, and people that didn't realize what it takes to run a country, who thought that the country was run on thank yous and hellos um, and like just superlatives of like weakness. And now I think they realize, oh, wait a second, we need somebody that is actually going to do what needs to be done, even if we don't like the way they're doing it. And I talk about it all the time, it's substance over form. The substance of what Trump accomplished in his 4 years was amazing.
Yeah.
The form in which he did it, I could see how it could turn people off. So once people realize that the substance of what America needs and what the world needs is more important than the form of how it gets done, I think that's when you'll have people that'll come back to the Trump kind of way. And there was a show called um, what is it? The Crown. I don't know if you ever watched it.
I did not, but
There was a show called The Crown, and it was about Queen Elizabeth when her father passed away and when she became the queen. And I think it was the second or third episode. John Lithgow plays Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill is a post World War II character in this, and I think it's like 1949 to 1952, somewhere in that era. And there was a scene where John Lithgow, playing Winston Churchill, says to his assistant, I think he was in the bathtub, he's like, "I'm sure you were told I was a monster." He says it in like when he's like, "I'm sure you were told I was a monster." And the girl was talking to the bathroom door and didn't really know what to say. And he says, "I am a monster. And it took a monster to defeat the Nazis." Now, if you fast forward that 70 years or 75 years, I think that's what people don't realize is Trump might be an asshole. He might be a butthole. He might be crass. He might not, speak as others want him to speak. But I think it takes that type of person to save the world. And I think that's what we all need to realize. We needed a Winston Churchill type person in the 1940s, and we need somebody like Trump that doesn't care how he gets things done. It's the getting it done that's the most important part. So there's that, and I think if we relate that back to pop culture, if people watch The Crown and they watch that scene, they'll understand what saved, you know, Western civilization from the Nazis. And if you fast forward at 70 years, I think you'll see that that's the kind of heavy-handed and like, damn it, we're Americans that we need to kind of, I guess, act like. So,
well, Cliff, I don't consider that heavy-handed. That's I consider it something that needs to be said, and
I agree, but
it may not always be eloquent.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
you saw that Trump in one of his last interviews, he says, I'm gonna try not to curse." A lot of people say, when he says, is a shithole or that they're going to destroy the place. So you can see that he's actually acknowledged verbally that he's going to try to change some of the way that he does things. I mean, he hasn't really come out and said, "I'm going to be a nicer Trump," but I think when he came out and said, I'm not going to use a curse word, rewind that 4 years, he would have never said that. And he would have just said the curse word and just moved on, thinking that's how we get things done. But now I think he realizes at least somebody's got in his ear and said, "Hey, you probably could just do without those a little bit." So he's trying, but at the end of the day, I don't care what he says. I don't care if he goes on an F-bomb tirade. If he gets Iran to do what we need them to do, and he gets Russia to do what they need them to do, and he gets the economy where we need it to go, I don't care if every third word out of his mouth is fine, So, and I think some people are weak-minded and they don't realize that people need to get things done. So,
Well, absolutely, stuff needs to get done, and we're a lot of people would consider that we're in a stagnant mess right now. And no matter how arrogant people believe Donald Trump is, they might want to take a look at Gavin Newsom. You want to talk about arrogance? He crams stuff down people's throats. I mean, crams it down their throats because he has a huge voting bloc.
but and I hear about this all the time. I mean, arrogance comes with the type of person that would be an executive at a high level in any organization, whether you're the president, you're the governor. Like, I've had many involvements with Ron DeSantis. If you sit down with Ron DeSantis, you'll realize the arrogance. You'll realize that you have to be somewhat arrogant and somewhat boastful to acquire that job and to be in that job and to run that job. I mean, if not, you're going to get the results that somebody like a Biden has, where he just lets people run over him and steamroll him. Same thing, it seems like if you look at Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter didn't seem like he had a lot of like qualities, like a Trump or like a Ronald Reagan or anybody like that, or Clinton. He just didn't have that. He had that meekness, that like milk toast kind of thing. And I think we need somebody heavy-handed, like Trump, and to get shit done. When Trump was in that one, I don't remember where he's at, like the UN thing, where he just pushed those people out of the way and said, "I'm coming through because I'm America." Most people are like, "Oh my God, but that's the way it should be. We're America. We saved the world. We're saving your ass. We're saving your ass. We're keeping all this stuff kind of spinning and under control. I'm in front." And that's what America needs. And the world needs America to be strong.
Well, absolutely. And, America is the shining hope for the world. The New World Order is not the shining hope for any of us. You look at what he did while he was in office. Look what he did with North Korea. I mean,
Sure.
he was warned by Obama how dangerous that was because President Obama had spent 8 years agitating them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Biden is.
I read somewhere that 95% less missiles were fired over Japan during Trump's 4 years than in the previous 4 years, and even now so yeah, it's an approach. It's speak softly and carry a big stick. Well, Trump carries a big stick and he speaks mediumly. He doesn't speak softly.
But he was respected by world leaders.
Sure. Well, if you look at Crimea was invaded, Ukraine was invaded, and Georgia was invaded under different presidents. But none of those places, Ukraine wasn't invaded under Trump. It could have been. He could have decided to take Ukraine, but he waited those 4 years. Why? Because he knew there might be ramifications for that. But he sees Biden, just like walk out of Afghanistan and leave billions and billions of dollars and let people die. And he's like, sure, we'll just go in and get Ukraine. They're pussified. They're not going to do anything. And I think it shows.
Well, yeah, it showed the world trying to take advantage of a lame duck, and
Sure.
I hate to refer to the commander in chief as a lame duck, but if it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck. It might be a duck.
He was a lame duck on the day he got inaugurated.
Well, he was a lame duck in Senate. He was the laughing stock of the party when they allowed him to run in primaries, and then Obama empowered him by making him his vice president, as Reagan empowered the Bushes by making George Bush his vice president.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
well, Cliff, I could talk to you all day, and I appreciate you joining us. Do you have some? Why don't you leave us with the final thought? Why don't we try and encourage people to get involved one way or another?
Well, I always tell people this thing I have called me plus three. Most people have a car. Most car has at least 4 seats. So when you go to vote, if your next door neighbor is like, maybe they don't have a car, maybe they're elderly, get 3 people in your car with you. Don't expect them to vote. Don't expect them to fill out some ballot and mail it. Literally take some ownership of you plus 3 other people. And if we all take me plus 3, There's no way we can lose the election, but we got to make sure that I take my three people and you take your three people, and everybody just, take your next door neighbor, take the guy across the street from you, maybe take one of your coworkers. And if somebody says, I don't know if I'm going to vote, I'm just not really convince them to vote, but then take ownership in making that happen, and just drive in there. Say, hey, look, I'll come pick you up. I'll come pick you up and we'll take you to your polling place. And I think if we all just take some ownership of not loading up buses or trains or, big RVs of people, just find three people that aren't the hardcore people, the people that aren't, you know, determined to vote, just the people that are like fence riders, or maybe they're not super voters. Maybe they haven't voted in a lot of elections. Maybe they're young people. Find those three people, take them to the poll, and we won't lose.
Well, my final thought, Cliff, is back when I first started voting, which was many, many moons ago, back in the late 70s, when we went to the polling place, it used to be an event. You were there for 2 hours, you were talking to people in line, you were breaking the rules, talking about the election. And every time we went back to our polling place, we were seeing the same people every time. And and remember, as citizens, we need to thank the people that get out to vote. Not
Sure.
only encourage them, but thank them, because that is our chance to make a difference.
Yeah, the poll watchers, all the people that, do everything. I speak on the Reawakening tour, and one of the things I talk about. Do I have a few more minutes to share a story?
You have as much time as you need, Cliff.
Okay. So on the Reawakening tour, when I talk about the story about when I met Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and he knew I did the world record boat parade, and we were doing this Trumparilla boat parade to invade Tampa when they canceled Gasparilla for COVID. And somehow Trump said to me, he's like, well, you're having another parade. And it shocked me. It shocked me that he knew it was happening in 2 weeks. Because it was like an off year. It was like in 2002, I think. It was, not really nothing going on, but we decided we're going to replace Gasparilla with Trumparilla. And we had about 500 boats that went up there that day. But he knew about it a couple of weeks in advance. And he said to me, he's like, I want you to know I appreciate, what you're doing. And I often talk about when I'm on things that, look, everybody's probably not going to do a boat parade and organize that. Everybody's probably not going to open up a coffee shop to support conservative values. But whatever it is you do, whether it's sharing a Facebook post, whether it's sharing the link to this YouTube channel to somebody else, whether it's going and raising money for somebody, whether it's putting a yard sign in your yard, whether it's phone banking, whatever it is you can do, you need to do it. And, when I often say it, and Trump, thanked me for what I did, and he said he appreciated it. I want you to know that everybody that's on the conservative side will appreciate what you do, whatever that is. So whoever is listening to whatever, do what you can, and you are appreciated. I want everybody to know that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Appreciated and loved. And hey, you reminded me, Cliff, you want to talk about that coffee for a couple minutes?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Well, talk to me about the origin of it and how it came to be in the coffee shop itself. Cool.
Yeah. Well, so on July 5th, I saw a story in 2019 that came across like a feed, and it said 6 police officers were asked to leave a Starbucks. And I was like, so I Googled it and found out that, yes, 6 police officers were asked to leave a Starbucks because one of the patrons didn't feel safe there. I think it was in Tempe, Arizona. Actually, I'm sure it's in Tempe, Arizona. And at that moment, I became outraged. I'm like, this is terrible. Why would you ask police officers to leave? And the article said that the person didn't feel safe. No, I think I feel pretty safe when police officers are around me. And from that moment on, I decided I wanted to start a coffee shop that, respected and celebrated conservative values and what we kind of believe in. So that was kind of the genesis of Conservative Grounds Coffee Shop, and that's kind of how I, kind of came up with the idea, and that was the genesis of it. It was literally just to support police officers and first responders. And at Conservative Grounds, no police officer, first responder, fireman, airman, Florida Highway Patrolman, they don't pay for anything. You come in and get all the free coffees, drinks, and donuts and fritters that they want forever, and they've never paid for anything. Now, some do pay, or they'll take out the hero fund thing and then they'll put some towards it. So, but all the customers have made it where they don't have to pay, so it's an amazing thing. So that's kind of how I started Conservative Grounds. And people can go to conservativegrounds.com if you don't live here, and we'll mail you a hat like this. We'll mail you a Black Coffee Matters mug. We'll mail you whatever you want from conservativegrounds.com.
I'm going to go there, Cliff. I want all that stuff.
Okay.
All right. All right, everybody. Hey, Cliff, thank you. This has been Justin Case and Cliff Gephart, bringing you American Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Remember, additional information and links are provided in this video's Read More. Today's the day to subscribe to this channel. Please learn more about Cliff Gephart and Black Grounds Coffee when time permits.